Stihl MS170, 2005 model, bought new 2006, so it's a few months away from being, what, 12 years old now. Right, so pretty much standard stock, used, no problem at all there. Just saw what it is, a homeowner's saw for logs, some pruning, things like that. Very safe, Pico Micro mini chain, 14-inch bar, 0.043 gauge, 1.1 gauge. Bought a little bit of bling the other day on the internet, some felling spikes. Didn't come with felling spikes originally, it just had these plastic mouldings, which are pretty worn now and burred over. I haven't really, you've got to remember it's a small saw, and so it hasn't really, haven't really needed it, to be honest, because you can quite easily overpower the saw just with your weight of your body behind it. But, thought it might look good. So I'm going to put them on now, do a couple of cuts, put the bar and chain back on, do a couple of cuts, and then I'm going to swap out this spur sprocket, the original spur sprocket, with a rim sprocket. The main reason being I'm going to try and get a bit more performance out of my existing bar and chain. By doing this, I'm making the sprocket size larger, so I'm going to be getting a faster change speed for the same power out of the saw. Rather than try and soup up the saw and get more power out of it, I'm going to try and uprate the speed, see if that makes a difference to start off with. It's just a quick and simple, cheap, cheerful way of doing it. But it will also allow me to change sprockets if later on down the line I want to change my bar and chain setup for maybe carving or other applications. Maybe a heavier duty chain, a thicker chain for drive links. So we'll see how we go. I'll just put this felling spikes on and go and cut a log or two. So it comes with the screws, and I think it's a 27, is it? Yeah, T27 starboard. Hopefully we're not going to have any splits in the old plastic casing. We'll see. There's no threads existing in these holes, just the self-tappers. But the moulding is obviously pre-existing to take this, so other models, I think it's the 180, I'm not sure if they came from the manufacturers with that or not, but this certainly didn't. Good, there you go, simple quick little mod there. Now these are still standard off-the-shelf spikes for this model. There's 2 or 3 other models at least that go on there. Now for me, it's this bottom spike that does all the work initially, especially if you're felling a largish tree. I say large for this saw. You want to get that first spike in there. But as you can see, the angle follows the angle of the plastic moulding of the case. But you'd have thought that that spike wants to be sort of going down here, really. It's almost as if it's upside down, but it's not upside down because the force of the saw when you're in the cut is actually binding, so it's the right way around. So we'll have to see. Interestingly, they've got this sort of curved aspect to them, whereas the old one is just straight and didn't really do much. So I put the bar and chain back on now, and we'll get outside, see if that makes any difference. Make sure it's all clean in there, that'll do, lovely job. Make sure I've got the chain around the right way on the bar, yep. All the holes are clear. So as you can see, still got the old style nuts, bar nuts on here, and the chain adjuster is a little screw right in there. So obviously these slightly larger felling dogs now, obviously impact that a little bit more, but no more than before. So there we go. So super tight, that's that, just in there. Start tightening this up now. Okay. Let's go. Okay, well, there you have it. The new felling dog on there. First impressions? Well, one thing is, obviously, they stick in compared to the moulding on here. And so when you're coming down in the cut, like so, before, I think what's happening is that these were moving on the log, and you could just sort of follow the saw around and then come down again. But of course now these are actually digging in. It's very easy to overpower this saw, and as you heard, it sort of bogged down a couple of times. Now that could be just me forcing it too much, or I might have my sharpening slightly incorrect. I might have my rakers or depth gauges, depending on what you call them, slightly too low, might be biting too much, or it could be that the engine just isn't tuned properly. But with these models, all you have for tuning is just a low idle adjust. There isn't a high maximum revs or a high idle. So that may be a mod later on down the road. I don't know whether or not you can they exist, and it's just a matter of getting at them or not. But yeah, easy to overpower, being only 1.5 horsepower. So yeah, don't know what to think about them. Also, they dig in, so once that's in the log, you're bound in there. It's not just a case of pulling the saw back round. You've got to bring the blade out, the cut, reset and go again. Whereas before, these are so smooth, you could just follow the log round. Yeah, well, we'll see. I've put it on, see how it goes. Just use it and see if it works on a little saw like this. Also, I've only got a 14-inch bar. I've got what, probably 12 inches of cut. Well, that's reduced it by probably an inch or so, I should think. So a little look-see. Before, goes on the plastic there, we had 320mm or 12.5 inches. Now we've just got a little under, we've got like, I don't know, what's that? 12 inches. So you lost half an inch. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference to this at all. Screwdriver on there, might need a little rag or something just to hide that. What have I got? There you go, classic, straight on the floor, lost in the sawdust. There it is. That should come off there. Now, this is the first time this has been off in ages. So what am I looking at? I'm looking at the clutch springs. All the springs are there. Zero wear basically, looking at it. There's hardly any wear in here. Oh, there's a little ridge, but I think most of that is dirt. That bearing face in there all looks fine, there's no burrs or anything in there. Put that to one side. In theory this should go straight on. But what I am going to do is put a little bit of grease on this guy. Not a lot, just enough. Just a little smear. It's all nice and clean on there. So that's on that inner face. A little bit of play in there. I might look at changing that down the line, and I'm going to put a little bit on this new surface in here, not too much because I don't want anything getting anywhere. Now then, what I need to look out for is the quill for the pump, oil pump that is. As you can see on here, there's a notch, lines up with a line. Now this one from Oregon doesn't have any lines on it, but it has got 2 notches. I just need to be ultra careful, making sure that that lines up on there. There you go, that's great. Now, schoolboy error, what have I done? I haven't put me bloody rim socket on, have I? There you go, not paying attention. Too excited by what's going on here. Oh dear. Rim socket on there. Cool. There we have it. So from a spur to a rim. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to run the saw on tick over. I just want to make sure that that is now pumping. And it sure is. We now stick on the bar and chain, take it outside, give it another go. Obviously same bar and chains before. I haven't changed the sharpening or anything like that, just going to whack it back on, see what happens. Now as you could have seen in there, we haven't got a mess, giving that a right old clean out in there. But I'm just doing this on a wet and windy Sunday afternoon. It's fast and dirty. Let's go. Right, I don't know if you saw that, but trying to be greedy and cutting up those stumps, trying to get the maximum firewood. There's obviously included stones in some of them, so it's about as far as I'm going to go with some of those. They can just rot down or go on a bonfire someday. But yeah, hit a stone, plenty of sparks, nothing too much to worry about. So yeah, got to give it a tick up now. There's various ways you sharpen, there's millions of things on the internet. I'll just lean on mine, especially the bench here, just lean on it. Got to get 30 degrees on this chain, and also it's a 4mm chisel. So I just find where my double tooth is, on here somewhere. Glasses so I can see. Right, there's my double tooth there. So we'll start here, and they are blunt as. There's my double tooth. Here we go again. Yeah, a bit more now. Last one. Cool. That'll do. So just a little bit of word about this. General maintenance things seems to come up on the internet quite a lot, and I've had all of them basically. First thing is your exhaust. Obviously petrol wise, best petrol you can buy plus 50-to-1 oil, that's the mix. But I think, especially on a small saw like this, you cut a log, put the saw down, go muck about, come back with another log or something like that, and it might spend quite a bit of time just on tick over, just on the ground. That's maybe not good practice, but you know, homeowners or whatever. And invariably what happens is that the spark arrestor gauze just behind here clogs up, and then you wonder why it don't run. It either doesn't run, or it bogs down, or you can't get it started when it's hot, all those sorts of things. So you've got to keep on top of keeping that clean in there so the engine can breathe. I've gone over to Aspen Fuels, Aspen in the UK and Europe. It's premix 50-to-1, high octane, and that's been excellent. Cuts a treat, and of course you've got no issues. It's more expensive and obviously than buying at the petrol station and mixing your own. But then still, and the other brands, they do their own ready mix, which is a similar price. So yeah, it's probably, I don't know, 2-3 times the price of buying petrol from the pump, but I found it worth it. Keeps this super clean, it's a super clean burn, it's environmentally friendly, you don't get any blue smoke or headaches. That's the main thing if you're using it for a long time. So that's great, so I've swapped it out to use Aspen all the time now. Next thing will be to get a different bar and chain so that I can actually be a bit more effective with plunge cuts. Because with this Pico Micro Mini, it's got so many safety features. A, it's a very small curved chain, and with these depth gauges and anti-kickbacks on there, and also such a small, relatively at least, radius to the end of the bar, as you can see there. There's no teeth at all there, cutting, and even when the tooth is sort of 90 degrees to here, the back of the tooth is touching rather than the front of the tooth. So they've made it as safe as they can probably make a chainsaw, just for the sort of do-it-yourself amateur sort of use, which is fine. But of course, having a small bar means that invariably you're going to be cutting stuff that's too big, and also I've found that you know, small trees quite often have a lot more lean and things like that. So sometimes you might actually want to do like a bore cut to stop any barber chair or anything like that. But of course you've got a chain and a saw that's set up that really those things are going to be once in a blue moon. So it's not really set up for it. So it would be nice to try the next probably gauge up with probably more of a chisely type chain rather than a semi-chisel safety one like this with a bigger nose. See how we get on there. Still be 3/8 pitch. I don't know, we'll see. That'll be the next project.